audit process briefly and in relation to what we're experiencing currently. Normally, when you're giving a contract to audit and you're giving a time frame, before you sign that contract, what do you do, particularly in relation to the time frame that you've been given?
Okay, thank you, Winston, and thank you to your panel members of the studio. All right, so basic audit principles. Before you take what we call in auditing the engagement, of which the partners will sign the engagement letter, the auditor first needs to understand the assignment. So what exactly does my client want me to do? So in this case, this is the government of Ghana asking the auditing firm to go and do a particular audit. You don't just get up and say, okay, 2 weeks, we can finish the work. The auditor will look at the quantum of work. In fact, the quantum of work will feed into the audit fee. We have something we call man hours in auditing, and the client pays for the man hours. So if he says this audit work, I'm going to take 50,000 Ghana to do for this audit work, it means he has calculated how much time he will need to invest in this work and finish it.
Okay.
So by the time the auditor appends his signature to the engagement letter, he knows exactly what the work is about. And expect that within that period, he'll be able to finish the work. Let's understand that for every additional day you add to the auditor's work, you are going to pay more money because auditors charge in time spent on the audit work.
Okay.
I am very surprised that an audit firm with its stature was able to sign a contract and says in 2 weeks we'll finish this work. Along the line, they come up and tell us that they will need additional 6 weeks. You know what it means?
Tell me.
It means that the audit fees they charge initially will be multiplied 3 times because the initial one was 2 weeks.
Yes.
This time they are taking additional 6 weeks. It will become 8 weeks. So the audit fees itself have ballooned to about 300% with the original fees. Look, in doing audit work, you can come to a point where there are some unforeseen issues, and the client will now request that, oh, you can do this additional thing, do this additional thing. We call it additional assignment, different from what we have signed for, and that they can arrange. But this one does not seem like it's an additional assignment.
Before you get to not seeming like additional assignment, so the additional assignment, or I mean, based on your experience, based on what you have done, how long, I mean, compared to the original assignment? So the additional assignment, is it more, I mean, the hours, are the additional assignment hours more than the original hours that were in your engagement letter?
So let's get the issues clear. If I am to do an audit work for 2 weeks, I can come to you and tell you that, oh, I said 2 weeks, but can you give me additional 3 days or 1 week, I'll finish. That will not require additional payment.
Okay.
Probably in putting up my reports, I need some few days to finish up. The additional assignment is that you wanted me to do, let's say, auditing of your financial statement for 2023. I came in and you now said, oh, can you help me with some tax consultancy? That tax consultancy is totally different from the financial audit you wanted me to do. So that one will require a new timeline, a new agreement, etc. But this one doesn't seem like that. It's the old business, old contract that I told you that in 2 weeks I'll finish. After looking at all the issues surrounding the assignment you want me to do. In between time, the parties now come back to tell the people of Ghana that they will need additional 6 weeks. It is something that we need to interrogate.
Okay. Now,
from where I sit as an auditor, I am confused.
I'm just looking at the statement from the presidency, and it says the president has extended the period within which KPMG is to complete its audit on the transaction between Ghana Revenue Authority and Strategic Mobilization Ghana from the initial date of Tuesday, 16th January to a new date of Friday, 23rd February 2024. This follows a request made by KPMG to the President requesting an extension of the 2-week period originally giving the company to undertake the assignment. And so KPMG is to submit its final report no later than Friday, 23rd February. It says KPMG requested an extension. How different is this from the client requesting? So now they have requested an extension, and in this case, it is 6 weeks. Since they requested the extension and not the client, do we still pay for it?
Yes, so we are going to pay for it because, as I explained, for every additional time, except give me some few days to put up my report, an assignment that you were given 2 weeks to do, if you are looking for 6 additional weeks, it means that there is some additional work you intend to do of which the client should pay. You can't tell me that a job you have spent 2 weeks to do, you need 6 weeks to write your report. No. So we really need to interrogate why KPMG is asking for additional 6 weeks. It means that they, in evaluating the work, the pre-audit arrangement, probably they made some mistake in estimating the time they needed to complete the work. And once they realize that they need additional 6 weeks to complete the work, the client will have to pay more money. KPMG is a very big audit firm. And I think we may need to know exactly, anytime business interplays or interface with government or politicians, sometimes the professionalism in doing our work, it comes to question.
How?
In fact, if this business was for a private company, will KPMG, the consultant, write to the private company that I need additional 6 weeks, of which if I do that additional 6 weeks work, you are going to pay for the man hours. Auditors don't work for free because we need to pay our bills. So if KPMG requires additional 6 weeks to continue working on your assignment, eventually they're going to bring you an additional bill to pay. And this is where I think we need to interrogate. Probably they didn't understand the assignment at the initial stage because government thought that they can just give the contract. And as a professional, you can't do that. You need to understand what exactly your client wants you to do. Put up your audit fees, which include majority of that is the man hours you will spend on the assignment, and give to your contract and give to your client how much he's going to pay. We sign, close deal. So now we come up with additional 6 weeks, additional fees to pay. They should come and tell us what is the issue that they are unable to finish in 2 weeks. They need to finish in 8 weeks.
Okay, hold on for me, Professor Antwi. Let's bring in, Ben Boakye on the same issue. Let's get his own take on, the extension of the auditing period. Ben, what's your take on that?
Thanks, Mr. I think for me, it's fair for the public to have information on what is happening. I think 2 days ago we had called for either KPMG or the presidency to communicate to the public where we are with the audit because the time had lapsed. So that communication for me is really important, and it gives us another opportunity to expect what KPMG is going to come up with, so that it's not just brought us up with time. I mean, the questions that have been raised by Prof and perhaps many others are legitimate because we don't have the details on cost. We don't know what the contractual arrangements really are. So speculating numbers is free to do that. It could be 0, it could be 1,000, it could be millions, without the facts being given to us. But essentially, when I read that letter that came from the presidency, The president essentially is telling the GRA that it understands, or he understands what he did, and therefore was not going to budge to explain that we're going to lose revenue, and therefore the contracts should be allowed, to persist. And I think that is really important for the president to have communicated that to the Commissioner General, who at the time that the issue was really boiling, he was on holiday. All right, for him to just return 2 weeks after the president's directive, and a time where the report of the KPMG was supposed to be out, then writes to the president to say that he wants to reinstate the contract pending the finalization of the work of KPMG. So I think that was a strong statement to put out, and also let the Commissioner General, appreciate that he understands what he's doing.
Right. Well, I think it will be interesting for us to also explore the views of our guests on the refusal of the president to allow for the SML arrangement to remain in place while this audit continues. I wonder, the Ghana Revenue Authority asked the presidency, in spite of the order to cancel that contract or suspend that contract while the audit goes on, asked the presidency if the monitoring arrangement that SML supposedly has in place at the depots could continue while the audit goes on. Some people think that was a rather irregular request. From your perspective, do you agree, or or was it quite normal and within place for GRA to make such a request?
Okay, thank you. You see, the first issue is that there was a problem with the contract, which culminated in the engagement and implementation of the contract. That is why KPMG was brought in. If we ask them to continue doing the work, they may impede the auditors, what the auditors are supposed to do. In fact, whatever they are doing is the subject matter for the audit. And we have various types of audits. This is an investigative audit. For an investigative audit, the first thing we do is that you halt the process and we look into it, bring a report, and see whether we can continue or we should stop. Because if the assumption is that we are losing money every day we keep running the contract, you ask the person to continue doing monitoring work. We are going to continue paying the person based on the old contract that we think there's something wrong with it. So in a normal way of running business, that request was out of place. We think there's a problem with this whole contract. Let's suspend it. Let the auditors come and investigate and give us a report. Based on the auditor's report, we will know our way through clearly. Normally, when government officials are to sign contracts for and on behalf of the people of Ghana, in quotes, sometimes they don't really think about the state. Once they think that if I sign this, ABCD can be done, probably somebody can get a kickback or something, they are fine. But you see, we should all be thinking about Mother Ghana. If it is your private company and you brought in an external person and you think the contract is fraught with a lot of problems, will you continue to ask the person to continue doing the monitoring whilst auditors come and investigate it, so that you keep losing money? If it's a private company, you will not do that. Why is it that because a government state, you want, or government business, or government entity, you want to do that? Our leaders should think that as we put them there, they are to act in the best interest of the people of Ghana. If it's your family business, if it's your private business, if you will not do that, don't do that for the state of Ghana. how long until this new arrangement of extension? Why couldn't they wait for 2 weeks to receive a report from our auditor? In fact, the commissioner himself should be happy to get that report and know with hindsight, did I do something right or probably I did something wrong? Amend his ways and let's all move forward on a clean sheet. I think it doesn't only go for him, but all directors, CEOs, MDs of state enterprises should know that they are there to work for the people of Ghana. If something is not going on right, let's wait, do the audit, get the report. Together we'll see our way clearly. And if there's nothing wrong with the arrangement and the contract, why? We ask the company to continue doing what GRA asked them to do. If there's something wrong, let's all resolve that problem. And if we may have to abrogate the contract, we abrogate. As of now, we've not abrogated it. The contract is only suspended so that we can get an audit report and see our way clear.
There are some who suggest that maybe it would have been helpful to the auditors to have the opportunity to observe the activity of SML at the depot as part of their audit process. And for that reason, they may have benefited from the president agreeing for those activities to continue.
So the auditors normally, as part of our work, we develop what we call an audit program. What exactly do I want to do? If at a particular point they want to observe, why? They can just get one depot and ask the SML to come so that they observe what they do. Or they could have even done that earlier. Because before they agreed on the engagement letter, they would have done these observations and all of that and what the assignment entails.
Right.
Let's also understand that if you keep the person at the depots to monitor, it is the old contract we say is fraught with problems that they are working with. If something happens, they can take you to court because the person was still on that engagement. So there should be a balance. And I think that 2 weeks would not have spoiled anything if they had waited for all of us to get the audit reports and look at our way forward.
Right. Now, Ben, I know that you were among some of the voices that raised questions about the choice of KPMG as auditors on this occasion by the presidency. Some people believe that KPMG already has a relationship with GRA, which, in their view, raises questions about their ability to do an impartial job. Do you still feel that way, or are you confident now that the outcomes of this audit, this extended audit, will be something we can all depend on?
Yeah, I think for us, we pointed out, some conflict that exists, and we're hoping that KPMG would have clarified it, perhaps to assure the public that in spite of that conflict, it has processes to deal with it, and that would have been a way to acknowledge that the conflict exists, because they're a client of GRA, and to that extent, is a commissioner general who is now in a defensive mode, that pays them, for the work that they do. So to the extent that they will get into that conflict, they should have communicated. It's a public interest matter, and we were expecting that they could have communicated a process, to be able to insulate themselves from the conflict that exists and assure us that they will do an impartial job, so that all of us could monitor what they're doing. But we can still give them the benefit of the doubt and wait for what the outcomes will be. And we will have the capacity to look at the report that they will issue and be able to interrogate whatever they will put out. But the conflict still exists. It hasn't been eliminated in any way. And they have not even acknowledged it publicly that they are into that conflict and they have processes to deal with it.
Prof, I mean, this is your field of expertise, and KPMG is a huge, consulting firm. Do you see the same conflict concerns? I mean, if GRA is KPMG's client, can they be asked to audit their client and be, relied upon to do an impartial job?
So, in our code of ethics, if this client It's a huge client. And we check KPMG's revenues, and GRA gives them about 20 to 25% of their total revenue for a year. In audit cycles, this client can influence the outcome of the SML investigation. Because if you lose this client, this huge client, supposedly huge client, because what he wanted you to, the report to look like, it didn't look like that from the investigative report. KPMG can say he will not do business. GRA can say he will not do business with KPMG again. And that is going to be a big blow to KPMG business. So there are parameters. Let's find out whether GRA is that huge client of KPMG. If yes, then KPMG itself should have recused themselves from this investigative business or job, because KPMG, the GRA can now influence them, because they always be thinking, if we don't do something right for GRA, we are going to lose the business they give us. But look, if GRA contributes only 1% to KPMG's total revenue for the year, GRA is not a big client. They will go ahead and do what a professional is supposed to do. If GRA decide that they will not do business with them again, they will be fine. They are not going to lose a lot of revenue. So it's something I don't have the figures. So I may not be able to do a pedestrian analysis and conclusion of the matter. I think that if GRA is a huge client of KPMG in other areas of their business, they shouldn't have taken up this investigative assignment. If KPMG, if GRA is just one small business they get, probably less than 1% of their total revenue, Winston, they can take their business, do a professional job like any other audit firm, bring their report. If it goes against GRA, so be it. And if GRA decide that they will not do business with them again, that is fine. They will continue to run their business as an international audit firm without any issue. So we need to interrogate what percentage of KPMG revenue comes from GRA. Of course, generally we know that GRA is a huge client to a lot of audit firms because they give audit firms a lot of business. A lot of business.
Well, that's something to think about. Prof, I want to say a big thank you to you. I know you've got other things to do this morning. We appreciate your time with us. Professor Samuel Antwi is Dean of Graduate Studies at UPSA. He's also an audit expert. Thanks again, Prof.
Thank you, Winston, and I'm grateful for the opportunity.